Disclaimer, this channel assumes you talk to your DM and that you follow basic tabletop etiquette. If you want to know more about that, link in the description. Anyways, enjoy the video. Find Familiar. This is the pet spell everyone picks, either for scouting or a roleplay prop, really. This spell has been on my to-do list for 5 years now, and I've been skipping it and skipping it and skipping it. And now the meta is a bit more advanced because of the release of 5.5. And of course the new Artificer. There's a lot to talk about now. That was always the case, but now it's like double as advanced. There's so many really good options. So let's dive into it. Welcome to Pack Tactics, where this spell can be pretty broken now. You could always argue that it always sort of was, but I don't really think so. Find Familiar, first level ritual spell. The cost is burning incense worth 10 gold. You gain the service of a familiar, a spirit that takes an animal form you choose. Bat, cat, frog, hawk, lizard, octopus, owl, rat, raven, spider, weasel, or another beast that has a challenge rating of 0. Appearing in an unoccupied space within range, the familiar has the statistics of the chosen form. Your familiar acts independently of you, but it obeys your commands. While your familiar is within 100 feet of you, you can communicate with it telepathically. Additionally, as a bonus action, you can see through the familiar's eyes and hear what it hears until the start of your next turn, gaining the benefits of any special senses it has. Finally, you can cast a spell with a range of touch. Your familiar must be within 100 feet of you, and it must take a reaction to deliver the touch when you cast a spell. We're not going to be talking about that because those spells normally suck. The familiar is an ally to you and your allies. It rolls its own initiative and acts on its own turn. Some tables run it differently where it goes on the caster's turn. I go back and forth, I really don't care. I do prefer its own initiative because people forget about the pets. That has its ups and downs. I really don't want to get into that because, well, it's kind of messy. Back to the spell. A familiar can't attack, but it can take other actions as normal. That could be interacting with an object, it can be the dodge action, it could be dash, it could be disengage, it could be the help action. Let's speed up the reading a little bit. You can only have one familiar at a time, and you can temporarily dismiss the familiar into a pocket dimension. And then you can make them reappear in an occupied space within 30 feet of you. That's really important because it's not sight-based. So if there's a bank vault, you can dismiss the familiar and then make it appear behind the vault door. Then from there you can see from the familiar's eyes and see what's inside the vault. It's pretty cool, and if you have an action teleport, then you can teleport inside the vault, because you have sight inside the vault. Before you could use Misty Step, but it looks like they fixed that because, well, you need to spam your bonus action every turn in order to get the sight. You can't squeeze in a Misty Step. Anyways, whatever. Most people go for bats or owls. The owl has blind sight 60 feet, which means it can detect invisible creatures and all that jazz. And if you put down Fog Cloud, you can bonus action use the bat's senses to be able to see, which gives you advantage while enemies have disadvantage. That is a huge strength. Also, bats are natural creatures in caves and stuff. So if it gets spotted by enemies in the scouting mission, chances are high enemies won't think about it being a familiar or anything like that. They'll just think it's a normal animal. The owl has less utility like that, but is overall better for combat, or at least in my opinion. It's debatable which one is better. I personally like the owl. It's double as fast as the bat, and it has the flyby feature, which doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. But Kobold, familiars can't attack, so this won't do anything. They can provide the help action, which makes the next attack roll against the enemy have advantage. It's only one attack though, but still, that's a damage increase. You're hitting your target more often, you know? Both the owl and the bat are mainly used for scouting though. If they die, you just ritual cast another one. All you lose is 10 gold and some time. This might be a bit pricey at low levels, but it's worth the cost regardless in most cases. This is very safe. It's better that a pet dies than a party member who gets trapped alone, you know? All I went through now is basically the old optimization meta for regular Find Familiar use, which is still around to this day. I still use owls. I also DM for people who use bats. As a special mention, you can summon the octopus for swimming. I think if you grab onto a tentacle, the DM will let you have the swimming speed of the octopus if it drags you. I know that's not rules as written, but it's creative. I've seen a player do this, and I thought it was fun. They have an ink reaction which lets them move even more. There's a ton more stuff. If your job is to infiltrate a crazy cat lady, maybe a cat familiar will be useful. Mechanically, cats are terrible, but different animals shine at different places, you know? Be creative. I personally hate saying that because I feel like that's not helpful to you, but you get the idea of what I mean. I can't predict every single scenario and help you out, you know? And there's stuff I would have never have guessed myself. Anyways, let's get into the super new stuff. Kobold, let's start with Bambi. Deers are medium-sized creatures with 50-foot speed and the agile feature, which is basically like the flyby feature. If you're a small-sized race like a kobold, you can make this into your controlled mounts. That means it will share your initiative, even rules as written. When they dash, which they can do for you without taking any of your actions, they're moving 100 feet without triggering any opportunity attacks. And because you're being moved by the deer, that doesn't trigger opportunity attacks either, because you're not using your movement. This is the deer's movement. It is amazing. This is one of the best mounts in the game. You can get it at level 1. True, but here's the bad thing about the deer. The mount only has a carry weight of 165 pounds, and some DMs will argue you need a saddle, which adds even more weight. Mules can carry 420 pounds, and riding horses can carry even more, so there's less worry there. But for the deer, they can barely carry you. So you need to be extra careful with your inventory and what you're wearing in general. If you're just a plain wizard with no armor, then you don't need to worry about this. I guess the easiest way to track this is if you have 8 or 10 strength and you're close to the weight cap, it's safe to assume the mount can't carry you anymore. If that happens, I recommend dumping a bunch of stuff into the party cart if you have a party cart. Anyways, let's move on. Now for Giant Fly. This one is broken. Yes, it's super broken. I recommend banning it. It's large and it has a 60-foot fly speed. This is arguably the best flying mount in the game because of how easy it is to get. Anyone can get it through Magic Initiate or dipping into a full caster that gets access to this spell. It's crazy stupid. Anyways, if your DM lets you summon the giant fly, go for it, man. 60-foot fly speed at level 1 is amazing. It's even more if you dash. It's faster than the deer too. That's really the new meta for 5.5. Go for the mounts. Yeah, you go for the ones you can ride, or you go for the classic meta. As new books come out, there will be more options and eventually better alternatives. But now let's get into Pact of the Chain. For those that don't know, warlocks can pick up an invocation at level 1 called Pact of the Chain. There you learn the Find Familiar spell, and you get more options. You get to pick Imp, Pseudo-Dragon, Quasit, Skeleton, Slod Tadpole, Sphinx of Wonder, Sprite, or Venomous Snake. Imp, Quasit, and Sprite are usually the go-to options because they can become invisible at will with the use of an action. Imps and Sprites can fly, but Sprite has the highest stealth out of the two. Quasit can shapeshift into a bat, but you only get 40-foot fly speed. There's not really that much utility around the shapeshift as you think, but it's still very useful. Anyways, generally, these are the best scouts in the game. I don't really think there's a wrong answer, but I guess the best one would be the Sprite. Pseudo-dragons are the coolest pet out of the bunch, and what makes them special is their stinger. DC 20 con save, or take 2d4 poison damage, and get the poison condition for an hour. While poisoned, the target also has the unconscious condition, which ends early if the target takes damage or a creature within 5 feet of it takes an action to wake it. This used to be an attack, but anyways, you can milk the stinger for poison. Poison, which is a DC 20 nature check. That's really high, but keep in mind you control the familiar, so this should be pretty easy. You can refresh the cast, you can put it to sleep easily, and all that jazz. I don't know if your DM will rule this as a contact poison, which can apply to weapons. If they do rule it as that, then this is 100% worth doing. This is one of the best poisons in the game. I've seen a lot of players milk pseudo-dragons. If you pick up the investment of the Chainmaster Invocation, the DC is set to your spell save DC. Also, you can make a bonus action attack with any familiar when you have this invocation. It's pretty good. Well, I mean, in my opinion, it's only really good on the pseudo-dragon. Kobold, this is your fault for making this popular. I'm fine with people milking the dragon for super strong poison. I should probably turn that into a shorts. People seem to have forgotten about this on YouTube. Anyways, let's get into the new stuff. I won't be talking about all of them. Sludge tadpoles can transform into CR7 or 8 monsters if its host can cast 3rd level spells or higher. But the problem is it has to be within 2d12 hours of its hatching. The tadpole you summoned isn't hatched, it's summoned. So you gotta check up on your DM how that works. If you can get a blue or green slot, then that's amazing. If not, it's garbage. And now let's get into the Sphinx. This one is super special. They have proficiency in Arcana. If you give them a Manifold Tool, which is a common magic item, it's super easy to get if you have Arcana and Tinker's Tool proficiency. You just craft it, it takes like 5 days. It costs 50 gold to do this. If you have a friend, the crafting time is half to 2.5 days. Once you have it, if you give this tool to the cats, then they can craft any magic item for you all night long, so long as you have the raw materials for what you want crafted. It's pretty insane. You'll get those 8 hours of crafting every time you rest. Also, they can assist you in crafting, which doubles the crafting time. Anyways, that's basically everything you need to know about the familiar options themselves. One more thing real quick, I almost forgot about this one. Any familiar, it doesn't have to be like a warlock familiar or anything like that, it can be an owl even. They can attune to magic items and use magic items, so long as they meet the prerequisites. So if you give an owl a wand of magic missile, they can use it. That is a magic action, not an attack. In 2014, that would be an object interaction. Tons of people do this. I have players doing this. I myself have armed a owl with a ring of spell storing. But yeah, I think that's it. That was the best of the best. There might have been something I missed, like maybe there's something better than the deer, but you get the idea of what's going on. Please mention them in the comments if there is something, because I want to know. Anyways, end the video. Look guys, Kobold and Gator Dice, they're on Only Crits. Use the code GATOR for a 15% discount. Anyways, thank you for watching. Bye bye!